Welcome to our channel Psyverge. Do you think you know the people around you? You believe you can identify when someone is toxic, when an energy is heavy, when a behavior crosses the line of what is acceptable. But what if I told you that the real dangers are not obvious, that the most destructive people are often charming, kind, even family members, and that while you try to protect yourself from the obvious villains, you are opening the doors of your mind to something infinitely more dangerous, the unconscious of others invading your own. Carl Jung dedicated his life to studying these hidden dynamics. In his work The Ego and the Unconscious, he reveals that most of what truly governs us is not under our conscious control. This applies not just to you, it applies to everyone. And that is precisely where the danger lies. Because when someone is blind to their own darkness, that shadow seeks a host. And often, that host is you. Jung didn't speak in soundbites. His warnings weren't made for catchy slogans. But he gave us something more powerful. Psychological X-rays that cut beneath appearances. He understood that evil is rarely flamboyant. It often wears the mask of virtue, of helpfulness, of love. But underneath, there is a psychic infection. A split between who a person believes they are, and the parts of themselves they refuse to see. He called it the shadow. And every human has one. But while some integrate their shadow, acknowledge it, tame it, others project it. They deny it in themselves and see it in others. And in doing so, they become dangerous. Not just to themselves, but to everyone who lets them in. Because Jung knew, a person unaware of their inner darkness will act it out without ever realizing they're the villain in someone else's life. The first kind of person Jung would tell you to avoid is the one who always plays the victim. This may sound harmless, but beware. The perpetual victim is often someone who has refused to confront their own aggression. They disown their anger, bury their resentment, and wear helplessness like armor. In Jungian terms, this is shadow projection at its finest. They are blind to how they manipulate, how they control through guilt, how they punish others through silence and martyrdom. They will make you feel like the abuser when they are the ones starving you of warmth, kindness, and stability. And worst of all, they truly believe they're innocent. That's what makes them so dangerous. Their unconscious defends their image at the cost of your peace. Then there are those who are obsessed with perfection. They demand control over everything. The way people speak, the way they behave, how clean things are, how emotions are displayed. Jung would say this is the tyranny of the persona, the false mask we wear to appear acceptable to the world. When someone is possessed by their persona, they become rigid, anxious, hostile to anything unpredictable, especially emotions. They suppress their own chaos and become intolerant of yours. And while they seem disciplined, what they're truly doing is hiding a vast ocean of fear and shame underneath their surface. You'll never feel free around them. You'll feel judged. You'll feel like you're performing just to be enough. These people don't just kill spontaneity. They slowly kill the soul. There's another figure in Jung's psychology you must avoid. The eternal child. He called this archetype the puer aeternus. On the surface, they're intoxicating, adventurous, creative. They make you feel alive. But soon you realize that their freedom comes at your expense. They refuse responsibility, avoid emotional depth, run from discomfort, and sabotage anything that demands growth. You will end up parenting them, managing their chaos, explaining their behavior, and shrinking your needs just to keep things fun. Jung warned that the eternal child refuses to grow not because they can't, but because growth means confronting pain. And they'd rather destroy something beautiful than face their own wounds. But some dangers wear an even softer mask. The helper. The one who always wants to fix you. Jung would urge you to be careful. Because sometimes, help is not about love. It's about control. When someone constantly plays the role of rescuer, they may be fleeing their own inner helplessness. Helping you becomes a way to avoid helping themselves. They appear selfless, but their identity depends on your brokenness. If you heal, if you grow, if you no longer need them, they panic. Because then, who are they? Underneath their kindness is a quiet desperation to stay needed. And that desperation can be manipulative, even destructive. You'll find yourself regressing just to avoid their silent withdrawal. You'll confuse obligation with loyalty, and over time your strength will feel like a betrayal to them. Then there is the shadow-drenched manipulator, the person who charms with insight but subtly undermines your sense of reality. Jung didn't call this person a narcissist or a sociopath. He called them what they are: unconscious. Their ego is inflated but fragile. They project everything dark in themselves onto you: jealousy, inadequacy, shame, and do it so convincingly that you start to question yourself. These people live in archetypes. They believe they are heroes, victims, geniuses, prophets. And if you're not careful, they'll cast you in a role too: the betrayer, the fool, the failure. You'll try to explain, to clarify, to prove your heart. But it won't work, because you're not dealing with a person. You're dealing with a narrative, and they'd rather destroy the truth than rewrite the story that protects their ego. And finally, there is perhaps the most dangerous of all: the unconscious parent. This could be your mother, your father, a mentor, a spiritual guide, someone who has authority not just over your behavior, but over your sense of self. Jung said that unresolved parental complexes are the root of many psychic disorders. When a parent uses shame to mold a child's identity, the child may grow, but their soul stays trapped in fear. If this parent refuses to grow, refuses to reflect, they will repeat the same spiritual violence well into your adulthood. They will call it love. But what they want is control. And if you do not recognize the prison you were raised in, you will recreate it in every relationship you have. Jung warned that the greatest danger to the soul is mistaking control for care. What makes all these people so dangerous isn't just their behavior. It's that they don't know what they're doing. They believe their story. They see themselves as good, as right, as moral. And the moment you confront them, you become the threat, the problem, the enemy. Jung believed that true evil often arises not from hatred, but from ignorance, from the refusal to look inward, from people who are completely unaware of their own unconscious motives. That's why awareness is your only protection. You cannot change these people, but you can see them. You can say no. You can leave. You can set boundaries so sharp they cut through every illusion you were once trapped in. And you must, because the real danger isn't just what they do to you. It's what they awaken in you. Your confusion, your rage, your need to be loved, your craving to be seen. If you don't face these things consciously, you'll replay them unconsciously. You'll date the same patterns, befriend the same emptiness, trust the same mask over and over until your soul is nothing but echoes. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The people you attract, the ones you can't let go, the ones who keep hurting you, they're not fate. They're mirrors, showing you the parts of yourself you must reclaim. Or else, someone else will keep using them against you. Protect yourself, not just from the loud, the cruel, the obvious, but from the kind who bind you, the charming who drain you, the broken who break you, and above all, the unconscious who, refusing to carry their own shadow, quietly slip it into your heart and call it love. That is the darkness Jung spent a lifetime trying to warn us about. And now, you know. Because awareness is only the beginning. Jung didn't just teach us how to spot danger, he taught us how to transform through it. When you recognize these archetypes in others, the real task is not to hate them. It's not to fight or fix them. The task is to understand what they awaken in you. What part of you still longs for their approval? What part of you still believes you deserve that kind of love? The kind that wounds. You see, people don't fall into toxic relationships because they're weak. They fall because they are unconscious of their own needs. Their shadow remains unexamined. They carry a wound from childhood, of not being seen, not being enough, not being safe. And when someone comes along who fits that emotional blueprint, the soul recognizes it not as danger, but as home. A dangerous home, but familiar. That is what makes unconscious people so powerful. They don't just manipulate, they mirror. They reflect the very parts of you that are unresolved. Your fear of abandonment, your fear of rejection, your longing to be understood. That's why walking away hurts so much. Not because you're losing them, but because you're being forced to meet the parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. Jung knew that the world outside is always a reflection of the world inside. The people you attract are often psychic stand-ins for your own unhealed complexes. That is not blame. It is liberation. Because once you become aware of this pattern, once you see how your unconscious seeks completion through others, you can break the cycle. You can stop playing roles in other people's unfinished stories. You can begin writing your own.